Hello and welcome. I'm joined today by Joe Godoyne, who is the head of sales at Spectre. Hi, Joe. How are you doing?
Yeah, very well. Hi, everyone.
Joe is joining us today for a very exciting product launch. And before we get into exactly what that product launch is, I want to talk to you about keep in touch policy. Basically, it's one area of a state agency that I think that most agents tend to fall down on, is the fact that they don't, once they've sold a house or they've dealt with a client, they don't keep in touch with that client, and that is a valuable can be a valuable source of future business. So talk to us a little bit about your take on that, Joe.
Yeah, so Spectre's Anniversaries basically aims to solve that element of keeping in touch with past purchases for a estate agency. The estate agency industry itself is probably one of the only industries that really lacks in that department. So Spectre Anniversaries basically enables you to keep in contact with your past purchases on the completion anniversary date every single year, so that it's your sort of easiest form of repeat business. They're your customers. You want to be making sure that they come back to you from your business, and rather than deciding to sell through another agency effectively. If you look at an example, and the best analogy I can think of is like a car dealership. If you go and lease a car for say 3 years, you can almost guarantee that every single year that car dealership is going to be contacting you to find out how you're getting on with your car. Do you need any upgrades? And are
Yeah,
you ready to look at your next car? And that's where the estate agency industry really needs to start focusing in on nowadays.
it's quite a simple concept, really, that you do see in other industries, such as the auto trade, but it makes absolute sense that we should be adopting this. And it's shocking how few estate agents tend to have a decent keep in touch policy, not even just with your own clients. That should come first, obviously. But I've heard of agents sending an anniversary greeting to people that have bought not through them. And
Yeah.
I think the fact that you go to the trouble of keeping in touch with people that bought perhaps through a different agent means that next time they come to sell the house, they'll think of you rather than the person they bought it from. So I think it has absolute value, and we're very excited about this product because Spectre obviously is one of the preeminent prospecting tools available out there to estate agents, and combining it with anniversaries, it seems natural, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It's just another form of lead generation for you, which most estate agencies really struggle with, because there's a couple of sort of hurdles that estate agencies have to jump over to be able to achieve contacting past purchasers. The first one is, if you sell a home to a purchaser, you don't know if they're still living in that home necessarily, so you don't have that information. Secondly, it's most importantly is, what do you actually send to that purchaser in terms of marketing that they're actually going to want to receive from you? And that's actually going to be useful to them. And it's the time involved as well. State agency CRMs might struggle with being able to detect anniversaries from completion dates and things like that. So not, I mean, we're in a really busy market at the moment, as you can imagine. Properties are flying off of Rightmove and Zoopla and things like that. So if agencies' stock levels are low, as well as obviously prospecting, they're going to need to look at their own customer base and try and convince people to move up the property ladder and try and increase their stock levels that way.
So, Joe, you touched on it briefly over there, and you're absolutely right. There's one thing keeping in touch, there's one thing being an absolute pain, and there's one thing missing an opportunity. So, when you send a communication out to any client, it's got to be something that they will want to read, want to receive, and adds value. So, talk to us about the format of the report that gets sent out to people on anniversaries.
Yeah, sure. So on the completion date every year of someone's purchase, they will receive through anniversaries a nice covering letter relating to that anniversary date, whether that's 1 year, 2 years, up to 20 years. So they get a nice introduction again to the business, a nice introduction from you as an employee from that company, and they're also going to get a branded property report, which is specific to their home. And that's information that someone's going to want to receive, because most people who purchase a home, that's going to be their biggest asset. They're going to want to know how that property has performed year on year in terms of value. So what I've actually got, if I share my screen, is an example of a property report, which I can show you. Can you see that?
I can indeed, yeah.
Fantastic. So these property reports can be branded with your particular logo, and I've thrown a dummy one in there today. And they can also be branded in terms of using your brand colors as well. So this logo here is dark gray and orange. So we've managed to brand the report dark gray and orange also. So just to give a sort of a brief run through of the report and what they receive alongside that covering letter, they get a report that lets them know the date that they actually purchased their property through the agency.
Yep.
We can give them the information in terms of what they paid for it and what we think it's worth now in the current marketplace.
That's
alongside, oh, go on.
No, it's superb that it's presented in that way, and that you've got all the you've also got all those comparables there to back it up, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So as well as obviously an estimated value of their property, they can see how their property's performed since they purchased it in comparison to their postcode to England. They can see the highest value transactions in their area, which is really good, because if you've got, if you're sending this report to someone who's nosy and they want to know what Pauline's house down the road sold for, then they can grab this information from the reports. This is giving actual completion prices, not just listing prices. They get a nice little story about what's happened since they purchased their home. And they can also see most recent sales in their area as well.
Fantastic. And I can see it's all caveated at the bottom as being sort of average information based on figures, but they need to discuss it with their estate agent in order to get more precise advice.
Yeah, absolutely. This is really a prompt for a purchaser of yours to get in contact with you as their agency. It does generate an estimated value, which is probably the most important part of the actual report itself, because as you can see here, if someone's purchased their house in 2017 for 450 and in 2021 it's now worth £50,000 more, that might be the biggest prompt for them to go, now it's time for me to move up in the property ladder, because I'm able to do so now, move to my next home or my final home. And obviously, because that isn't an estimated value, it does prompt them to get back in contact with the agency themselves to get a more accurate valuation. But it's a conversational piece, and that's the main aspect of it.
That is the main thing. Yeah, that's superb. So that comes together with, I'm presuming, a sort of a happy anniversary greeting as well.
That's it, branded covering letter, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. So that's a really good report. It adds value. It is a conversational piece. It's there to it's not salesy. It's not trying to push them into doing anything they don't want to do, but it's reminding them that you're there, and it's adding value by giving them key facts about their marketplace. And as we know, we're all nosy about what happens to Pauline up the road and what's going on your street. And particularly house values. As a nation, we've got an obsession with how much our home is worth, which is what makes these sort of conversational pieces so successful for agents trying to establish contact with potential sellers, which is all superb. So if I'm an agent and I want to get set up with Anniversaries today, I don't currently have a keep in touch policy. How easy is it for us to come on board?
It's really, really simple. You just get in contact with one of the team members here at Spectre. You don't need to have a Spectre subscription to use Anniversaries. We can provide that as a standalone product. All we require from you is a CSV export from your CRM system, which contains a couple of fields. So we just need to know who the purchaser is, we need to know the property address, and we need to know the completion date. Once someone's provided us with that information, we will then cross-check all that information through the algorithms that we've designed, and we'll basically look at, of all the properties that you've sent over to us from your completion data, we'll then work out how many of those purchases still remain in that property. So they're still your purchases, and that's what we class as your active property list, which will be used for your Anniversaries.
Okay, Joe, we're going to cover a more controversial aspect now. Digital mailing versus direct mail. obviously this is a physical report that people receive through the post, and actually most of what Spectre provides for agents delivers it to the homeowner at their house in their hand, as it were, as opposed to an email. There is a difference between these two methods of communication, and there is a debate going on as to whether the open rates on emails have dropped to the point that people disregard most things as spam. But we're all inclined to pick up something that comes through the door, and you're going to take a look at it if it's presented correctly.
Yeah, definitely. We're firm believers that direct mail is still the most powerful method to get something in terms of marketing out to a prospective client. Email filters these days, they're very strict. Spam filters are very strict. So a lot of things go into junk. I mean, how many emails does anyone get every single day from different marketing companies? I know GDPR helped a little bit with that, but people are still getting spammed constantly.
Right. Yeah.
So people are constantly changing email addresses. Whereas if you get something through the post, you're going to open it immediately if it's got your name on it. So it sparked that curiosity. And if it's a branded property report about your home, that's going to sit on someone's coffee table. It's going to be a conversational piece between the household members. And that's going to sit around in plain sight a lot better than an email is going to be hidden away in an inbox somewhere.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You stand a much better chance of people engaging with it and getting back in touch. There's really no replacement for that. So if you're an agent and you're looking to put in place a keep in touch policy that works and that might be able to stimulate future listings and really engage your customer base, you need to talk to the guys at Spectre, and all their details can be found at kerfuffle. A link will accompany this clip as well. Thank you, Joe, for joining us today, and thanks for this very exciting product launch.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.